Lilac Kitty has all types of Reddit stories that will make you think, cry and laugh. Only real stories.
My psychiatrist called my depression idiot syndrome. I am from a third world country and here people don't even know what depression actually is, except its name. People feel so ashamed to openly talk about it. I suffered for 1 whole year of extreme depression, like every single sign of depression. I had been suicidal too. When I was about to give up, I decided to finally seek help. I told my parents I can't concentrate so they will take me psychiatrist. When me and my father were at Psychiatrist, he asked me some questions and I told him, I can't concentrate and I had to read 3 times a thing just to understand it. He was trying to test me as if I am lying to me. I told him clearly that I feel dopamine deficiency, I indulge in high dopamine activities but then its level drops quickly making me feel low. To this he said, you know what you have? Idiot syndrome, you have idiot syndrome. I was about to cry, barely controlling my tears. I felt so helpless and bad. He was very unprofessional, and he's one of the best psychiatrists available in the area. I can't explain how bad I felt that day. Later, I got my blood test and I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, mainly neurosis, which I doubt. I asked him to look into ADHD symptoms too, but he dismissed without even discussing it further. I can't get that thing out of my head and it makes me feel so sad sometimes. How can someone be so cruel? Mom said I'm free to commit suicide if I finished my study. I've been suffering from depression for more than 15 years and recently for many reasons it gets worse. In the year of 2017 my parents asked me to get a master's degree since my previous education was too bad. I successfully got enrolled but due to my mental health condition and my social phobia I feel it's really hard for me to keep going, especially when I compare myself to other rich and happy schoolmates. I feel no motivation and no willing to focus on my study. I like it but it's all because of my family wanted it, not me. I then realized that I haven't done anything for my own good, I just fulfill other people's wish all the time. This realization makes me frustrated and feeling hopeless and meaningless. So I'm being suicidal for some months. I talked to my mom last month. I said if I could quit, because I want to restart my own life and try to enjoy. I know I mess up my 31-year-long life already since I don't have a goal. I am just being alive as my parents' best obedient kid. I see no future, no meaning in my life, so I want to give up. I feel so excited when thinking about death, a relief and a method to solve all the pains. I talked about these feelings with my mom and dad. I hope they can be understanding and supportive, but they said no, I can't quit before I finish my school. Also they said if I want to die, it's better to finish my school first, then I can die with a certificate. That at least makes them feel good that I did a thing. I really want to die as a revenge to them. They don't care about me and my problem. They said if I die it'll be a huge loss and shame for them, because their peers would really look down to them. But now they seem to know that my depression isn't a made-up excuse, so they tried to negotiate with me. They literally said that I can kill myself if I could at least get the certificate. I really let them down all the time. They said if I could try at least once. I have no friends, no relationship, no one I could talk to with my problems, but I don't think anything will help me out. I'm just super suicidal. I cry all day. I want to end everything, but I hate my mom's sad face and crying. I dated a sociopath. Antisocial personality disorder or psychopathy, as in somebody who has no sense of conscience. I think it's fair to call him that, since the therapist who we saw jointly thought this is likely what he was/is. From reading, many sociopaths are addicts, as he is, so it can be difficult to separate which traits are inherent, sociopathic, and which are due to addiction. We dated for nearly 4 years. During that time he lied about too many things to enumerate. When we met, he was in town visiting family because a grandparent was dying, true, and told me that he was doing research in another country, which was funded by a major philanthropic group, really, was living in another country to avoid a legal charge that would put him in jail. He was incredibly charming, intelligent, well-read, funny, and interesting, and our first date went from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m., because we just couldn't stop talking, everything from Chinwa and Shebe to Brautigan, places we'd traveled, blah blah. We walked and drove all over town, his hometown, I'd just moved to, until we'd closed down every coffee shop and hang out. Within a few weeks we were totally smitten. I was in deep smit, and within a couple months he moved in with me. Things started off so well. He decided to not return to his research project, but stay with me. He was having a hard time finding a job, more likely that he either wasn't applying or background checks turned up a record, but would work for a couple weeks at different places. While our daily interactions were still awesome, I was getting increasingly stressed by being the financial supporter, while also in grad school. We broke up at 14 months, but we're still in touch. That's about when the medical issues really started. It started off as allusions to the universe having a funny sense of humor, and then he told me he'd been diagnosed with cancer, wasn't sure how to tell me, and that stress made him act like a dick, leading to the breakup. We talked as friends for a while as he was out of state. At this point, his cancer is diagnosed as inoperable. He talked about what he planned to do when things got too hairy at the end, and I told him I'd help him if it came to that. Of course, all this is BS on his part, but from my end, I was crying myself to sleep worrying about him and mostly floating through the end of school. Having just broken up with him, I wasn't really over it, and the thought of really losing him forever was scary. At that point, all I wanted in the world was for him to be okay. A miraculous second opinion, and series of surgeries, including gamma knife surgery, and he had a clean bill of health. He returned 3 months after the breakup, having lost about 60 pounds and, when my family cried BS, produced a letter from the in-state doctor to the out-of-state doctor detailing the inoperable findings. At this point my family thought I was insane and wanted nothing to do with him. I believed and defended him, pushing my family away. We were together for another 3 years, engaged at one point, during which time he worked off and on, while recuperating from the cancer and then developing a secondary health issue. I eventually caught on that the illness wasn't above board when I found that he'd been crushing and inhaling his pain meds. I asked him about it and he lied some more. That was a huge sense of betrayal. He knew I was busting my ass working and developing a mountain of debt to take care of him. At that point I was paying almost $1,000 a month for his expenses, in addition to our rent. Realizing the level of deceit, I didn't feel like I knew him at all and was a bit afraid of him. I called my parents, estranged at this point, who came to the house to supervise as I asked him to pack a bag. I was taking him to the train station. Packing up his things, I found scores of RX bottles. All the pain ones were empty. The ones that would have treated his illness were untouched. They were also from all sorts of hospitals within 400 miles, states away. I still don't know if he was really who he presented himself as, or if he just read me and mirrored it back. I've rarely connected with somebody on such a deep level, and never so quickly. Red flag. Looking back, the whole relationship is confusing, as it's hard for me to separate fact from fiction and real versus false motivations. In all, over the 4-ish years, I covered about $100,000 in living and medical expenses for him. He wrote me an IOU for $50,000, which he's never made good on. I've paid off all but a few thousand of the debt I'd incurred. The money sucks, but the worst part is the anguish I put my family through. I'll never be able to take that back. My dad was literally trying to figure out how he could off this guy without getting caught. My mom couldn't understand how I could believe him over them, and felt a level of grief as if I'd died. It's taken a lot of work to re-establish those relationships in the past year. Other fun facts. For me he was a researcher, but I'm told that for another girlfriend he was a British professor. He carried the accent for 5+ months of dating. I found out he had kids from his previous marriage, who he'd never told me about. I'm ashamed to say, I accepted the excuses and stayed with him. He claimed that the stress of having cancer was a major contributor to his marriage breaking up, but his ex-wife said that he never had cancer. When he was sick with her, it was due to mysterious headaches. He had a scar that he said was from an abusive GF throwing a glass at him. I'm told it was actually self-inflicted in a department store, as he thought he'd be able to sue.